ओम मौन व्याख्या प्रकटित परब्रह्म तत्त्वं युवानं वर्षिष्टान्ते वसदृशिगणैरावृतं ब्रह्मनिष्ठैः आचार्येन्द्रं करकलितचिन्मुद्रमानन्दरूपं स्वात्मा रामं मुदितवदनं दक्षिणामूर्तिमीडे वटविटपि समीपे भूमिभागे निषण्णम् सकल मुनिजनानां ज्ञानदातारमारात् त्रिभुवन गुरुमीशं दक्षिणामूर्तिदेवं जनन मरण दुःखच्छेददक्षं नमामि चित्रं वटतरोर्मूले वृद्धा शिष्या गुरुर्युवा गुरोस्तु मौनं व्याख्यानं शिष्यास्तु छिन्न संशयाः निधये सर्वविद्यानां भिषजे भवरोगिणां गुरवे सर्वलोकानां दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ओम नमः प्रणवार्थाय शुद्धज्ञानैकमूर्तये निर्मलाय प्रशान्ताय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। भूरंभांस्य नलो नीलोऽम्बरमहर्नाथो हिमांशुः पुमान् इत्याभाति चराचरात्मकमिदं यस्यैव मूर्त्यष्टकम् नान्यत्किंचन विद्यते विमृशतां यस्मात् परस्माद् विभोः तस्मै श्री गुरुमूर्तये नम इदं श्री दक्षिणामूर्तये. Okay, so we were looking at the 9th verse where Dakshinamurti is presented as the one who is appearing in the eightfold forms which are actually perceptible to us. All these eightfold forms which are described here, the 5 elements, and then the sun and the moon and the individual conscious being, all these are perceptually cognizable for us. So Dakshinamurti is the one who is appearing as all these things, means Ishvara is the total. And then why is it even being presented like this? Because those who are not able to directly understand the vision of Vedanta, at least they can do Upasana. So the idea is that you try to see the macro in the micro. Okay, so whatever is the total is the same thing which is there in your individual level also. So that how to do that Upasana, how to visualize all these things in one's own body, mind, sense complex was described by Sureshwara a lot. And then all this Upasana, if you want to do properly, you also require a certain disposition of your mind. Okay. So for that, Ashtanga Yoga is being described now. In this Ashtanga Yoga, initially we saw there were all these values are talked about in the form of Yama and Niyama. Okay. So Yama is more in terms of restrainment, what you should not do. And Niyama is what you are supposed to do, etc. That is one way of looking at it. But here, if you see, Sureshwara presented Yama as that which are all related to mind. Okay, so all the values and disciplines for your mind, what kind of attitude you should have, etc. That is all called Yama. And Niyama was presented as Kaika. Okay, whatever you do physically, like doing Namaskara. Okay, even Satyam also, they are looking it as Kaikam because actually it is you are speaking, right? It is an act of speaking through an organ of speech. So that involves physical activity. So that way, even speaking truth and then doing puja, Ishvara Pranidhana in one way. But puja here, physical activity, all these things, the whole list is there here. If you go, we saw all that. Okay, including snanam, japaha, homa, tarpanam, different types of tapas, danam, titiksha, So all these things, in fact, titiksha should have been listed under mental, but here he is talking it as kayika niyamaha, because physically your body has to be able to take it. Even though you are mentally strong, if you are not able to take cold, you get pneumonia and all that also, that's a problem, correct? So here, titiksha, again, we have to look at it in both ways. So in Viveka Chudamani, Bhagavan Bhashyakara is talking a lot about titiksha, correct? He gives a very beautiful example. Sahanam sarva dukkhanam apratikara purvakam chinta vilapa rahitam sa titiksha nigadhyate. So it's not just the ability to withstand, okay, all extremes, but without having any ill will or without complaining. Apratikara purvakam. Pratikara means having an opposing thought about it. Why this is happening to me, or whoever is doing this to me, I should get back at them, etc. You don't have any of those thoughts. Okay, apratikara purvakam. Chinta vilapa rahitam. Without feeling sorrowful or without worrying or being anxious, and without having any vengeful thoughts about whatever is happening to you, you are able to bear things, okay? Sahanam, forbearance. Anyway, so, but it has both a physical aspect and a mental aspect. Now, all these things were talked about. Yama Niyama, we saw that. And then the different types of asanas, again, asanas are important, and they are looked upon from the standpoint of the Adhisthana Devata. Every asana has a Devata that we should not miss it. Okay. Asana is not just some physical posture, or it's not a physical exercise alone. We have to also recognize the Adhisthana Devata for every asana. So here it was presented already. What are all like Brahmam Asanam, Vaishnavam Asanam and all that. Then finally, but Sureshwara made a very interesting point that all this asana and all the restrictions we are giving, that is all fine. But what we have to understand is, all this is only to understand that Brahman itself transcends all these things. Okay. So that is something we should not lose sight of always. Because many times we can get lost in all these disciplines themselves and forget why we are even doing all these things. So these are all only a means. The means itself cannot become an end. So he points out here, Niralambataya Dhyanam Niralambaha Sadashivaha and all that. Niralamba Yogasya Niralambanam Asanam, he says. So the yoga here we are talking about is actually knowledge only. The knowledge of that which is not having any ashraya itself, okay, and which is the ashraya of everything else. So Brahman itself does not have any, it does not depend on anything else, and everything else depends on this Brahman. That's why it is called Niralambanam. So it is sitting as though without any support. It doesn't require any support. Brahman does not require any support. And everything else is supported by this Brahman. And that Brahman is nothing but yourself. Understand that. So, now contemplating about this is what is called Niralambataya Dhyanam. See, normally Dhyanam means you are focusing on one particular thing. It can be anything, correct? But generally we say Saguna Brahma Vishaya Manasa Vyapara. We will see later also Dhyanam will come here. But here, when we talk about Nididhyasanam, it is more about contemplation of Brahman. What is the nature and how it is not separate from yourself. It is about, in fact, more about your own nature. You are looking at yourself in the light of the teachings of the Shruti and the Guru. and that has to transform you. So that transformation is called yoga here. So that is the main thing. We are doing all this Ashtanga only for that as the Angi here, which is the Atma Jnanam. Atma Ekatva Jnanam alone is the Angi for us, not just Chitta Vritti Nirodha. That is a very important point we have to understand. Even though according to Yoga Sutra or Yoga Shastra, Chitta Vritti Nirodha means cessation of all modifications in your mind is the goal. But for us, the cessation alone is not the goal. Cessation can still happen. But why are we even doing all this Ashtanga, practicing as a sadhana, is to understand oneself as the Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, that Atma alone is really there, that Atma Ekatva Jnanam alone is the one which can give you moksha, nothing else can give you moksha, freedom from all limitations. Our problem is not thoughts. Thoughts themselves are not a problem for us. Understand that. Many people think thinking itself is a problem. Thinking is the nature of mind. Understand that. Mind keeps on jumping from one thing to the other. That's how the whole thing works. There's no problem with a thinking mind. Our problem is having wrong notion about oneself. The wrong notion will not go away just by stopping all thoughts. It has to go away by right notions have to come in. Correct? That's why we have to look upon ourselves in the light of how Shruti is revealing ourselves. So all the wrong notions have to go away, and then the self can shine as it is. You don't have to know the self as an object. Understand that. You are that. So that part we have to understand properly. One's own nature we have to understand. And in that process, all wrong notions are gone. That is our goal. That is the Angi for us. All other things are all only leading to that. They are parts or Angas. So in this first three, we saw now in the Ashtanga, Yama, Niyama, Asana. Then Pranayama is just half a verse. Sureshwara is saying, Rechakaf Purakas Jaiva Kumbakaf Prana Samyamaha, he says. So Rechaka, Puraka and all, those who practice pranayama will know. Okay. Even simple pranayama anybody can do. Even as part of our Sandhya Vandanam, every day we do at least 12-13 pranayamas. We do. If you do Sandhya Vandanam every day, every time when you do Sandhya Vandanam, there is pranayama. Before every japa also you are supposed to do pranayama. So pranayama is supposed to be a purification. By focusing on your breath and trying to regulate it, you can regulate your mind through that. Okay, that is the idea here. So this pranayama is a very important thing. That is why it is prescribed even in all the regular puja and japa also. Whenever you do, you are supposed to do pranayama first. But you can do it in a more detailed manner. It also has health benefits and all that, which is good. Okay, nobody is saying it's not required. So Rechaka means what? Rechaka means exhalation. When the air goes out of your nostrils, that is called Rechaka. Puraka means when you breathe in and fill up your stomach with the air. That is called Puraka. So Rechaka, Puraka, you can do even simple Anuloma Viloma Pranayama, we say. You take the breath through one nostril and leave it through the other, and in the process you also do Prana Vikshanam. You just observe this breathing itself. That will calm most people down. Okay. Then more advanced is Kumbhaka, means you hold it also within yourself. The prana, you can keep on increasing the time of Kumbhaka also, depending on how much practice you do. So that retention also is important. More advanced practice of pranayama means you will do all three, Rechaka, Puraka and Kumbhaka, where retention is important. Now all this is pranayama. Why pranayama is prescribed? Because for those whose mind is not very easily available to them, we have to go through the regulation of breath. Even just watching your breath and doing something mechanical like that will make your mind calm down. Okay, otherwise it can keep running here and there. So, how much rechaka you do, how long you take the breath in. So, slow and deep breathing is always very useful. And then how long you hold it and all, again you have to go through those people who know this pranayama. In fact, Gita also Bhagavan says, apane juhvati pranam pranopane tatha pare prana panagati rudva pranayama parayanaha. So in the 4th chapter, I think 29th verse or something, this about pranayama parayanaha, like that different yajnas are talked about by Bhagavan, as again means sadhana. Pranayama is talked about as one of the things there. Even in the end of the 5th chapter, as an introduction to dhyana, Bhagavan talks about little bit, he says. So, sparshan kritva bahir bahyan chakshuschaivantare bhruvoho prana pano samau kritva nasabhyantara charinav. So, prana and apana, prana pano samau kritva, making them equal, prana and apana. You are breathing, you are regulating your breath. Whatever is going through your nose, nasabhyantara charino, pranapano, samokritva, keeping them equal, regulated. Okay. Like this, some mention is there even in Bhagavad Gita. See, in Bhagavad Gita, all these Ashta Angas we can see. Some verses are there. Yavanayama is anyway there. In many places, values are talked about. Asana also, 1 or 2 verses are there in the 6th chapter. Particularly samam kaya shiro grivam dharayanna chalan stiraha, like that. So you can keep you are supposed to keep your body straight. Okay, body, the neck and your head have to be in one straight line for doing dhyana. Like this, some recommendation are given in terms of asana. Then pranayama also, couple of verses are there, like I told you. So this pranayama is important before we can do dhyanam. Then what? 4 angas are over. 5th one is what? Pratyahara. Ahara means what? Whatever you are taking in is called ahara simply. So normally the ahara means food, because food is what you are taking into your body. But from a indriya standpoint also, ahara means any indriya vishaya also is a ahara, correct? Because they are all going into your organs of sense. So sense organs are taking in sense objects. That is also called ahara, not just eating food. Physically, it is about eating food, is called ahara. And subtly, from the subtle body standpoint, the sense objects are the ones which are consumed, correct? Whatever you are consuming, taking in, is called ahara. Now, pratyahara means it is the opposite of ahara. Means you do not take in the sense objects. So you try to keep your sense organs from going after the sense objects, at least. That is the whole idea here. In fact, Bhagavan talks about in Gita also about that yata samharate chayam kurmongani va sarvashaha, like that. Indriyani indriyarthebhyaha tasya prajna pratisthita. In the 2nd chapter itself, this pratyahara is indicated by the kurma example. The tortoise is given as an analogy because whenever there is a threat, what does the tortoise do? It will take all its 5 angas into the shell, correct? Because including the head, 4 legs and the head, everything will go into the shell. So that is how you have to withdraw all your senses. Okay, so that is called pratyahara. Of course, that is an analogy even, but still physically, how am I going to do that? Are really pratyahara. So pratyahara is there even in the verse I quoted just some time back in the 5th chapter end. Okay, Bhagavan says, Parshan kritva bahir bahyan. So bahyan sparshan bahir kritva or sparshan kritva bahir bahyan chakshuschayvantare bhruvoho. Like that, sparshan kritva bahir bahyan means really bahyan sparshan bahihi kritva. So keeping the external things as external, that's all Bhagavan says very beautifully. Now this, my guru used to talk a lot about this, which is very important. What is that? We are carrying many things in our head. That is the problem, in fact. So there are so many people, they are always traveling with you ticketless, he used to say. So you have bought only one ticket for the bus or train or flight, but 10 people are traveling with you in your head. Now that is a problem, correct? That means you have given space to all these people in yourself, and they are all troubling you. Then they are occupying your mind space, and they are troubling you. So that we have to now try to handle all these things. We should be able to suspend everything, whatever may be your problems, your issues. We have to be able to suspend it and keep all these external things as external, which is a very important thing. Keeping external things as external is the main thing in pratyahara. So here, how does Sureshwara is saying that indriyanam samastanam vishayebhyo nivaranam pratyahara iti proktam pratyaharartha vedibhihi. So those who know about pratyahara, what do they say is pratyahara? They are saying indriyanam samastanam, all the indriyas, nivaranam, keep them away from what? Vishayebhyaha, from their sense objects. So keeping the sense organs or even organs of actions from their objects, okay, is pratyahara. So you do not consume anything. You try to keep everything external as external. That is the important thing. So that is why even some people, when they do dhyanam, what they do is, we all close our eyes. That is one way of keeping at least visual stimuli out, correct? But many people also, what they do, they even put their hands near their ears and then they plug it, okay, so that external sounds will not come. So typically that kind of, even I have done such kind of dhyanam long back, okay, 25 years back. So I used to do a lot of dhyanam. And we used to keep our ears also closed. And eyes closed, of course. And focus in between your eyes. That means at the tip of the nose and all. That's what even in Gita also it is said, correct? So, like this, you can do dhyana. It helps you to focus, calm your mind and focus on one thing and all that. So this pratyahara, of course, these are all physically we are trying to limit the stimuli. But if somebody is bothering you so much, they are anyway going to be sitting in your mind. That also you have to suspend. Okay, that is the more difficult part, I think, for some people. So that is something. Otherwise, you have to then think about that and process why somebody is bothering you so much. You have to think about it and process it somehow so that they don't bother you so much anymore. So that bahyan sparshan bahihi kritva is very important. That is the pratyahara part. Okay, having the external things as external, don't bring them in. Don't make them travel with you ticketless. Okay. That is the pratyahara. Okay, then what? So 5 angas are over with this. 6th one is what? Dharana. Okay. So dharana means you are supporting something. You are now keeping something in your mind. Having kept all these things out, the sense objects, what do you want to hold in your mind? Holding something in your mind is called dharana. Dharanam means that only, correct? Even in our wedding and all, we call mangalya dharanam and all that. So you are actually holding on or tying the knot, correct? After the knot is tied, you are holding on to it on your neck. That is why it is called dharanam. Tharikardu and all that. Even in Tamil we use the word. It became tharikardu in fact. Dha became ta in Tamil. So dharana means holding, supporting. So what are you going to hold in your mind? That is important, correct? So if you are doing just dhyanam, how do we even talk about dhyana? See, dhyana is manasa vyapara. First we have to understand that. It's a mental activity. It is not a physical activity. Or even it is not an oral activity. It is not kaika or vachika. It is manasam karma, manasa kriya, mental activity. Now, what type of mental activity? Because even worrying about something is mental activity. Being sad also is mental activity only. So, what is this mental activity? What is it about? Means we say Saguna Brahma Vishaya Manasa Vyapara. It is about Saguna Brahma. It is about Ishvara. So, whatever is your Ishta Devata, holding on to that Ishta Devata's form in your mind is dhyanam, let us say, or that is the dharana part. You have decided to hold on to some form, some thought, or even repeat, means it becomes japa. You repeat a mantra, your Ishta Devata mantra or whatever mantras you have got diksha, that you mentally you have to repeat. Now the problem with all this japa, when you are doing dhyana in the form of japa, the problem is your vocal cords will come into the picture. Then what will happen? Essentially, it is not a mental activity. Understand that. Once the vocal cord gets involved in that, it becomes a mechanical, physical activity. Your mind will get dissociated from that and will start running somewhere else. This problem will come. Initially, whenever you are doing dhyanam in the form of japa, particularly, what will happen is it will not just remain as a mental activity. For that, you have to be very alert. Understand that. If you are not alert, mind will run away. Letting your vocal cords getting involved there means definitely mind has run away already. Or it will easily go away somewhere else. That is why one of the things my Guruji used to do is whenever he did guided meditation, we used to have every day in the morning during our long-term course when we were doing Gurukula Vasa. Morning 6 to 6:30 was meditation. Sometimes it used to go a little bit longer also. So Swamiji will always first try to relax you physically. Okay. Because before you can mentally relax, physical relaxation is important. And then make you watch your breath. Okay, so that also will calm you down further. Then interestingly, he used to ask you to do mental arithmetic, something. See, this mental arithmetic is purely a mental activity. So, he'll just tell you 100 plus 50 plus 75, like that, keep doing this addition, minus 5, something he will say like that. So, when you do this mental arithmetic, and then he will say, hold on there, now you do the japa. however you were doing that mental arithmetic, correct? That was purely a mental activity. In the same way, now continue with your japa, whatever is your japa. And so in that, what you have to be alert always is, do not let your vocal cords get involved. Understand that. That is the important part in holding on to whatever you want to hold on in your mind. Otherwise, what will happen? Vocal cords will get involved. It will become a mechanical, physical activity. Mind will run away somewhere. That problem is there. But then initially, anyway, this problem will be there. So don't think that on the first day you sit and meditate, you are going to do everything, whatever you want to hold on your mind, you are able to hold on. For even 1 minute is a big thing, let me tell you. Or even 30 seconds is not easy for many people. So Bhagavan in the Bhagavad Gita, he gives a very charitable, or he gives good practical instruction. What is that? He says, Shanai Shanai Rupa Ramed Buddhya Dhriti Grihitaya Atma Samstammanah Kritva Nakinchidapi Chintaye. So he says, slowly. In fact, mind, the nature of the mind is to form associations and then go on with that associated object only, correct? That's how mind works. So you are saying Om Namah Shivaya, then okay, my friend Shiva is there. I don't know how he is doing in this coronavirus times. Oh, Corona, what will I do now? Like that, something, it keeps on going. That is the nature of mind. Mind is supposed to think based on associations only. But whenever your mind goes away like that, bringing it back also is dhyana only. Understand that. So dharana means you are holding on to what, or you have decided to hold on to some form, something in your mind. Okay, whether it is a mantra, or some people are more visual, so they are visualizing something, their Ishta Devata's form. Based on a dhyana shloka, you are visualizing. Okay, I visualize Vallabha Mahaganapati, who has 10 hands, and each hand is having Bija, Pura, Gadekshu, Karmuka, Ruja. So he is having Bija Pura in one hand. I am visualizing. Bija Pura means this thing, pomegranate, because it is filled with seeds, correct? That's why it is called Bija Pura. Gada, he is having Gada in one hand. Ikshu Karmuka Ruja is having a sugarcane bow. Chakra also is having Chakra Abja. Abja means lotus. Chakrabja Pashotpala. Pasha also is having the rope in one hand. And then Utpala is having another flower also. So all these things he is having in his hands. Like this I am visualizing. Then Vrihi Agraswa Vishana Ratna Kalasham Prodhyat Karam Boruhaha. So he is having also rice. Okay. The rice plant, Vrihi Agra. Then Swavishana, his own tusky is having in one hand. Because he wrote Mahabharata with that and all that, correct? That story is there. Then he is having Ratna Kalasha in his trunk. And then he is holding on to Vallabha, his consort, in one hand. Like that, we can visualize based on a dhyana shloka. That is also dhyanam. That's why it is called dhyanam. Understand that. Dhyanam, like that, even when we chant Vishnu Sahasranama, you are supposed to visualize Vishnu. So, even though you do not understand Vishnu Sahasranama fully, you should make an effort to understand the Dhyana Shloka, because Dhyana Shloka is not to be just chanted. Understand that. You have to understand what is described there, and at least slowly try to visualize that in your mind first. And then do the whatever. That means when you visualize like that, you have done Avahanam of the Devata in your mind at least. And then for that Devata, you are doing the Vachikam Karma, which is the chanting of the Sahasranama. So for every japa, first you have to do dhyana. So even Gayatri also, when we do every day, first dhyana is important, correct? Even Gayatri Devi is described. Every day Sandhya Vandanam also when you do, there is a description of Gayatri Devata in that. There is a dhyana shloka, correct? And you call Gayatri, you do Avahanam and then do dhyana Avahanam you have to do. You visualize the Devata and then call them and ask them, you be there while I do this for you, correct? Then finally you ask all the favors, prarthana. So this dhyana is very important there also, visualize. So the ability to visualize, the ability to chant or hold on to something in your mind. So that holding on part is called dharana first. Then Sureshwara, here I told you, correct? Dhyanam means Saguna Brahma Vishaya Manasa Vyapara. Also, we can even add Sajatiya Pratyaya Pravaha Vijatiya Pratyaya. You do Nivarana also. So, holding on to whatever the thoughts associated with what you want to hold in your mind. Having a flow of thought which is associated with the object you want to hold in your mind, and keeping away thoughts which are not associated with that. Okay, so Sajatiya Pratyaya Pravaha has to be there, and Vijatiya Pratyaya has to be kept away. That which is not in associated with the whatever you want to hold in your mind. That is what we say dhyana. And again, what you want to hold in your mind is some Saguna Brahma, means your Ishta Devata, Ishvara. So that here Sureshwara is saying Brahma Vishnu Shivadinam. So he simply says the Saguna Brahma only is either as Brahma, Vishnu or Shiva or Devi, whatever may be, or Ganapati, Kartikeya, Kumara, or Aditya Devata, like that, anything is possible here. Chinta. So Chinta here means the thought. Dhyanam Prachakshate. So having this a flow of thought for some time at least, okay. Of course, the dhyana lakshana also includes bringing back your mind to that flow of thought. Initially, this flow of thought may not even last for a few seconds. That's why you have to slowly bring it back also. Your mind will go away. Bringing it back also is part of dhyana only. The dharana and dhyana means your ability to hold a flow of thought associated with a particular thing is the important thing here, and that is where you have to practice. So as and when your mind goes away, the ability for you to recognize that means you are now objectifying your mind more and more. Some people don't even recognize it. It takes some time for them to even realize that they have now gone away. The thought has gone on to some other things which are not associated with your Devata on whom you are doing dhyana, let us say. Even to realize that it takes some time, already 30 seconds over, 1 minute over, then you realize, okay, again, you bring it back. So in all these things, that the important thing is some self auto-suggestion is important. So before you start your dhyana also, you can give auto-suggestion. Now, the next 5 minutes, nothing else is important to me. I don't have to think about anything else. Only the Devata, my Ishta Devata alone is the most important for me. Because to do dhyanam and japa only, I am calling my Ishta Devata, correct? You call your Ishta Devata for doing japa and then think about something else means it is insult to the Devata, correct? Understand that. Because any japa, you have to first do dhyana avahana. You are calling them literally and asking them to be there. Then you are doing japa. So that auto suggestion you can put so. So the Devata alone is important to me. Nothing else is important. That works. Okay, so that ability to bring your mind back will become better, and the necessity to bring back also will reduce as you progress. As you do more and more dhyanam, your ability to hold on to one thing will also improve, and your ability to recognize that you have strayed away and you have to come back also will be better. That will keep on improving. Means your dhyana is improving now. Okay. Then what? Dhyana you are doing like this. Dharana and dhyana. Okay. So dhyana means you have now achieved a certain sajatiya pratyaya pravaha. Correct? That means you have reached. So dharana means initially you have decided to hold on something and you are trying to do that. But once you have a certain flow you have achieved, means that has become dhyanam. So from dharana you graduate to dhyana. You can say like that. Okay. So now next verse is what? Dhyana spandanam buddhehe samadhirabhidhiyate amanaska samadhistu sarvachinta vivarjitam. So here now finally another anga is the after dhyana is samadhi. Okay, that is the eighth anga. So samadhi means you have a certain laya. So even more than dhyanam, you are now absorbed in whatever you are holding on in your mind. You are absorbed into that. That absorption laya is what is called samadhi here. Samadhi. So how does Sureshwara is saying dhyana spandanam buddhehe. So dhyanad aspandanam. Dhyanad aspandanam means spandanam means what? Normally spandana means a movement. Okay, revolution and all that. Moving round and round also is called spandana. So aspandanam means what? Whatever object you are doing dhyana on, from that you do not move away. Means you are absorbed into that. There is a certain laya. So buddhehe dhyanad aspandanam means your mind here does not move away from the object of your dhyana. Correct? That is what is called samadhi abhidhiyate. That is called samadhi, that absorption into the object of your meditation. You are absorbed into the object of your meditation. That is called samadhi. Then that is the Ashta Angas are over with this. Now what is the Angi? According to Yoga Shastra at least, the Angi is the Chitta Vritti Nirodha, or they call Asamprajnata Samadhi and all that. Okay, Samprajnata. This eighth Anga is actually the Samprajnata Samadhi. Means still there is the meditator meditated, all that there is an absorption, but that division is still there. But once all the mental activities stop, they cease, cessation of all your changes in your mind. That is what they call sarva chinta vivarjitam, without any thought. Okay. So you achieve a certain thoughtless state. Of course, we achieve this daily in our sleep also. Understand that it is not something which you cannot achieve or anything like that. So essentially, some people even focus on the gap between two thoughts in your mind. In fact, for normal people, there is no gap at all. Thoughts are flowing one after the other in such a progression, correct? That progression is too fast. There is literally no gap. But then when you do more meditation, people ask you to even focus on the gap. and keep on increasing that and achieve a certain thoughtlessness and all that. But understand one thing. Thoughtlessness also is useful as a Vedantin for you to understand yourself as pure consciousness. You really transcend the mind. Understand that. You are not the mind. Whatever is happening in your mind is becoming evident to you. You are that conscious being to whom everything is becoming evident. So even when the mind is gone, that means no thoughts are really forming. You are still there, correct? That is what you have to appreciate. That is your Swarupa. The Swarupa Anusandhanam is the most important thing for us. Not just stopping all the thoughts and all that, but understanding I am free from my mind. I am free from body, mind, sense complex. I am the conscious being to whom everything is evident. I am the only Satya Vastu. I am the only one who can never be negated. Understand that. How do we define reality or Satya Vastu? Satya, truth, means that which can never be negated in all periods of time. Okay, that is called Satya Vastu. So in the case of rope snake, rope was there. Rope is there, rope will be there. That is why it is Satyam. In all periods of time, you cannot negate the rope because rope alone is there. But snake was not there, but snake is appearing right now. But even while it is appearing, it can be negated. Then once you have seen the rope, snake is no more there. So snake, even though it appeared in the present, it was not there before and after. That is why it is called Mithya. It's only an appearance. So understand this. Every object you cognize is not there, correct? It comes and goes. That is all only Mithya. What is always there is consciousness, which is yourself. Everything comes and goes and it becomes evident to you. You as the cognizer, your nature never changes. You are always the same conscious being, self-existent, self-revealing conscious being to whom everything becomes evident. What becomes evident keeps on changing. That's all Mithya. You are the one who can never be negated. Understand that. The negator can never be negated. You are always there. Even to negate, negator has to be there. So the negator can never be negated. And that is why you are Satya. You are the only Satya Vastu. Everything else can be neti, negated. And that Satya Vastu is you, and you transcend the mind. Mind is active because of you, but you are not the mind. So Amanaska Samadhi means what? Understanding that you are not the one who has the mind. Understand that. Having the mind is not a problem for us. But understanding that you transcend the mind. Mind is also Mithya. You don't have to give any reality to what is happening in the mind eventually. But to appreciate that, you have to have a certain disposition of your mind to even appreciate all these things. That's why all this sadhana is important. All the ashtangas are quite important. Why? Finally, you have to understand that you are the amanaskaha. You are the one who does not have any mind really, correct? Mind is you, but you are not mind. That's what we have to understand. So, sarva chinta vivarjitam. There is. So, your Swarupa is really sarva chinta vivarjitam. That also is important. So, somebody said, I think, therefore I am. That is not correct, in fact. Even when you don't think, you are there, correct? So, I am not restricted to only my thoughts or anything like that. I am, therefore I think is more correct. And I am alone is your true nature. Thinking and all comes later. That's all mithya. I am. That is the reality. So I am by myself. I am free from all thoughts. None of the thoughts really matter. They are all just coming and going. They are all only mithya. So that is what one has to appreciate. That I am free from all thoughts and I am free from mind itself. That appreciation is what is very important for us, more than all the thoughts stopping and all that. Of course, that will happen. See, the Ashta Angas only you can do. Finally, this thoughtless state and all, achieving that is not a willful activity. Understand? It has to happen by itself. That is the Angi. Like you can prepare to go to sleep, but you cannot consciously go to sleep, correct? There is no willful activity there. Sleeping also is like that. Similarly, achieving this thoughtless state, for that you are doing all the preparation, all the sadhana, which is the Ashta Anga, but the Angi has to happen. From a purely Yoga Shastra standpoint also it is true. But for us, whether that Angi happens or not is also not that important. For us, your understanding that you are free from all thoughts and your mind is the most important thing. Understand that. Even while the mind is operating, I am free from my mind. I am free from all thoughts. That is the underlying knowledge. That is my real nature. That's what needs to be understood. That is the most important thing for us. Okay. So that is Amanaska Samadhi. According to me, Amanaska Samadhi means what? See, Bhashyakara Samadhi itself, he gives a beautiful meaning in Bhagavad Gita. Samadhiyate asmin iti. So everything resolves into whom? That Atma is Samadhi really. That's how Bhashyakara is giving the meaning in Bhagavad Gita. Samadha vachala buddhihi tada yogam avapsasi. Like that second chapter itself it is there. Okay. Samadhau, like that, in Samadhi means there Samadhi gives Atma is the meaning of Samadhi because into which everything resolves. That is Samadhi, that is Samyak Adhiyate Asminiti Atma. Into which everything resolves. That Atma is called Samadhi. And that is my very nature, which is free from all thoughts, which is free from mind. That is my nature. That's what needs to be understood. So that is the Angi for us. Okay, now continuing what Sureshwara further says. Chitte nischalatam yate prano bhavati nischalaha chittasya nischalatvaya yogam sadhyanam abhyaset. So here he is giving a note here, you can say. What is that? Okay, some people try to calm one's mind by doing pranayama, I told. So initially that is useful, correct? You regulate your breath, and through that you try to regulate your thoughts also, your flow of thoughts and all that, which is very useful. But eventually what? Your mind itself is so calm, it is the other way around. Even your breathing is all regulated because your mind is so calm. The Naichalyam is there in your mind. Your mind itself is resolved. In the Atma Ekatva Buddhi, mind itself is resolved into that. Therefore, prana also is, in fact, for some people, prana can become very slow. And it stops for some yogis. They can be there. In fact, there is a way of doing that and all that. In fact, about that also Sureshwara will talk later. We'll see all those things next week. Okay. So this mind calming and resolving, means your prana also will become slower, calmer. The way your physiological activities also will slow down. And for all these things, you have to do this. You have to regulate your mind. Okay? And all this is what is called yoga. So along with dhyana, you practice this yoga for calming down your mind and resolving your mind finally. And along with that, your prana also will be, and all the physiological process will also come to a halt. It will slow down. Okay. So that is what he is pointing out here. We will continue this next week. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
धन्यवादः जी.
धन्यवादः जी.